Thank you. My name is Marcus Manuel. I work here at the Overseas Development Institute. I'm part of a team that is regularly in and out of Juba working with the Ministry of Finance. I had a question for Luka. Thank you for your first presentation. You refer to there in the peace agreement, one of the things you find encouraging is the different way that was chosen to adopt the portfolios of government. There was some innovation, if you like, and some political development. You mentioned also the challenge of how at the top, the relationship between the president, the vice president, well, two vice presidents, is going to be critical in taking forward. And I wondered whether you had any insights in how that might develop, given that they've spent many years not talking to each other, and the peace agreement suddenly assumes they will talk to each other. I wonder whether you see any innovations that might help that happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from this side of the room? Okay. Oh, right. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Luka and the other commentators. I am Khalid al-Mubarak. I am the media attaché at the Embassy of the Sudan. And I agree with what your optimistic approach, which is that you have something, it's not perfect, but you can build on in the future, which is, I think this is the correct mindset for going ahead. Your references to the Sudan were interesting. The situation now between the two Sudans is very positive. Witness the borders have been opened and renegotiation of the transit fee for oil, and the refugees are welcomed as intimate brothers and sisters. No problem there, because in the Sudan it's very clear that stability in South Sudan is very important for stability in the Sudan. My question is about your reference to reforming the SPLM. Will the question of relations with the Sudan come up, for example, that the S in SPLM and in SPLA refers to the whole Sudan, which means that the purpose is still to liberate the whole Sudan and continue, because the SPLM North is the same as SPLM which is ruling in Juba. So will this be included in the discussions, the relations between how to deal with the Sudan as a separate sovereign country? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to take, Rose, you had a question first. Let's go to the first row, and we'll come back to others. Please.
Thank you very much. Rosalind Marsden from Chatham House. Well, thank you to all the panellists for their comments and very interesting presentations. I had a question to Dr. Luka. It was really about the question of the 28 versus 21 states issue. You mentioned as one of the major challenges of implementation of the peace agreement, the question of election fever and the politics of patronage. I wondered if you could say a little bit more about the motivation of both Salva Kiir and Riek Machar in proposing, respectively, the 28 and 21 states in terms of expanding patronage ahead of the elections and, of course, controlling, also in terms of controlling oil resources. Secondly, in that connection, how is it going to be possible to actually fund the establishment of a greater number of state governments, whether 28 or otherwise, in the middle of a very, very grave economic situation in South Sudan at the moment? And thirdly, I think the peace agreement had provided for a reinvigorated constitutional review process with a degree of public consultation, which presumably would have covered the issue of federalism. I wonder, in the light of the developments that we've seen, what scope there will be for the wider public of South Sudan to express their views on the future governance of the country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was 3 questions. I think we're going to start with those, and then we'll come back to others. Luka, I think they're all addressed to you.
Yeah, first let me, one of the very important questions is about these local institutions. there is a book about this anti-fragile, whereby you have some institutions that they prosper with disorder. And these institutions, they tend, whenever there's a disorder, they even prosper and become even stronger. And it is interesting when I was doing some work with Safer World, how the youth becoming a anti-fragile, because when you have a conflict with a lot of knowing of other opportunities, the role of youth becoming so important in conflict, and becoming even they prosper in terms of, if you see Galwang, if you see, and there are some institutions that are becoming so resilient within the shock, and it is very important to identify those institutions that we can build on, because there will be, whether there's a peace or whether there's war, they will becoming a very important focus for us. And this is the level, what Lebanon said, how can we move to this lower level to identify those institutions, especially the youth becoming very, very important. But even if you look at markets is not only institutions that are resilient, but there are institutions that are actually becoming so central. Even the parties, in most cases, they tend to agree not to disrupt the market functioning. We have war hours, a good example, whereby market is becoming a rallying point for the parties. Abyei itself was an issue that no party would like to attack Abyei during the conflict, because they said this is the area whereby we can. So we should look to those institutions that they will prevail and they may prosper. And that's why the traditional authorities, to a certain degree, they're affected, but in most cases they're quite resilient. And maybe to leave the debate around the whole lot of national institution building, to really have a balanced approach of how we can look at the local level and look to these institutions that we can. And that's why the work of SLRC is very important, because to see the whole lot of delivery of services, and it's linked to the whole lot of governance in terms of whatever levels are we talking about, because even sometimes it's the issue of governance at the national level becomes quite elusive. There's another narrative of governance at that local level, because so I think this is the thing that we may need to look at. I'm just raising this issue because I think this is a very important point of looking at the local institutions. Now, let me come to Sudan. You know, in most cases, Sudan managed to create itself from a lot of contradictions, and sometimes with their own vested interest to become almost a spoiler in the region, to the level they created their value. And it's very important to recognize that one, because Sudan becoming indispensable, and they managed to, I don't want to call them anti-fragile, but they managed to prosper, okay, with these contradictions. And one of the things is very interesting, the way the Sudan managed with that agenda of seeing a weaker South Sudan, but they managed to really having a leverage, whether it is SPLM in opposition, is actually depending entirely on Sudan. Juba is working very hard to deny that the SPLM in opposition to have good relationship with SPLM in opposition with Riek. And subsequently, two of them are actually competing of who win the confidence of Sudan. Whether the intention was good or bad, it is a reality. The idea is, how can we change this intention that Sudan is having to be positive in bringing peace and stability in South Sudan? Because if the agenda because I was engaged in a region, what is the intention of this region? Because if the intention of Sudan is actually to see a weaker South Sudan, unstable South Sudan, it will be a recipe for instability in Sudan. Although you have this leverage now, Sudan may need to use it effectively. And that's why some of us we see Sudan can play a very important role, with the assumption that the agenda is to see South Sudan is stable and peaceful. And what equally also, we are seeing also not having peace in South Sudan, it is destabilization to Sudan. And that's why the SPLM North is very important, that you need to look at it also. We hope the national dialogue, we are hearing a good, positive things, that things are happening. The relationship between Sudan and Uganda, we know the meeting of Yoweri Museveni with President Bashir, we hope should not create many losers with compromise for any election that is coming for these two countries. So any foreign policy that is around your own survival, you may be actually digging your own grave in the long run. And that's why the agenda of peace in the region is so important. I want to raise that issue because it's very important for us to underline that point. Coming to the SPLM, National Congress Party has a very important agenda. Its agenda, Islamic agenda. And it has no boundaries. This agenda of Islamization, state of Islam, that is the agenda. It is not like, I'm not like communism. They don't have boundaries, okay? So these are people believing that they have an agenda that they would like to so that's the National Congress Party. In actual fact, it is very strange even for you, for National Congress Party member to define yourself to be a Sudanese. You are above Sudan, okay? And that is it, okay? So when we talk about the SPLM, I think it is very important for, SPLM is having a problem because that S is so important for the survival. That's why you see SPLM is dividing itself, SPLM in opposition, SPLM in government, SPLM DC, SPLM what? Because it is a political capital that is accumulated over time. And nobody would like to lose it because the people of South Sudan, as we talk now, how ugly is SPLM? It is that SPLM is still in their mind. And it is becoming a political capital for any party to get for elections. If you lose it, you will not get it. Maybe SPLM is not a name is important. It is your constitution itself that should determine and define. You can have a very good name that can be for a global thing, but then your focus, your constitution will define where should you be operating. And it is very clear in the constitution of South Sudan that focusing on South Sudan. So the name is not a big deal. The constitution itself is the most important. And this is what happened in the constitution of the SPLM. So, Khalid, if you are concerned about the S, is even shorter than the one of NCP is even bigger than. Yeah, let me come to this issue of the 28 and 21 state. One of the problems of Riek Machar or the SPLM in opposition is that they wanted the federalism to be effective during the transition government. And they work out on the 28 state. And if you are a liberation or a liberation movement, your central point is about the people. Because even though you have the desire of people of South Sudan for federalism, you cannot have and impose something on the people of South Sudan. Because having 28 states or 10 states or more than 10 states, it is a process that people should enter into consultation with the people of South Sudan. And that's why the peace agreement is very clear on that. It will be discussed during the permanent constitutional making process so that you can have a dialogue and engagement with the people of South Sudan. Even if you agree about the number, the levels of government or the tiers of government, you should agree even what should be the name. The people should say it, even their capital. How should we name it? But Riek started with this agenda of having these 28 states from the beginning. But the good thing, he was convinced by the government of South Sudan, by the international community, that this process should start after the formation of government national unity and should be discussed during the permanent constitution. But the problem is that the government, by the time Riek was, or the SPLM opposition, was pushing for the agenda of federalism, which is a very hot thing for people of South Sudan, they took the show as if they were the one actually they're actually the one supporting the federalism. And government did not play their cards properly, as if they were seen against federalism. So it was a necessity for political gain for the government to do something to gain the populace. And that's why the decision for me, my own analysis, it was necessary it was natural that the government to create this one in order to win the people of South Sudan. And as we talk today, it is the very popular thing among the people of South Sudan. It's very difficult for actually I was seeing it. It's very popular in the sense that it is because what is happening, the desire to govern yourself, the self-rule, is so high. So whenever you have, for example, in Central Equatoria, you believe, okay, now we liberate ourselves from Mondari, so we have our own. The same thing so you have those things. So the government use it as a political tool in order to win the population. But the problem with that one is that what the government has done is not federalism at all. What they have done is just increasing the number of the states. Because the powers of the state, even the 28 states, they are the same. Because they say the objective of these 28 states is to devolve powers and resources to the local government and to the state. But what they have done, they have retained the same powers of the state, exactly the same. And there is no any devolution of powers or resources even to the local government. Even the local government is not mentioned. It's only 28 states. So in actual fact, you are not devolving powers. You are not devolving even resources to the 28 states. In actual fact, they say they are going to downsize the government and the national expert to be taken to the state and then to the local government. That will nothing happen. The size of the national government is still the same. The people are still in Juba. They have not been transferred. So what I am saying is that what happened is not a decentralization. It was not a federalism. Also, the issues of boundaries is creating a lot of issues. But whatever the case, what we are saying is that is the debate. The debate should happen that if the government is saying 28 states or the SPLM in opposition 28 states, if I were to be the SPLM in opposition, I should bring another agenda. For example, what we know, we have 79 counties. We agreed about that. It's something that actually everybody is demanding even more for more states. And that is a debate I believe is a healthy, so that we can be able to engage what number of states that we need to have. And it's going to be an endless process. I agree with you the whole lot of whether will it be financed by because given the economic condition, and this is the thing that some of people are raising it, that it is not with the economic conditions now, it will be extremely difficult for you to implement. But here the government, by the end of the day, somebody is going to pay. I wish if they were to subject it to a very thorough study, that people are now happy of having this state. It should be very important for the very people to see how much they will be able to pay to finance and govern themselves. Because you cannot be saying that, really, I'm happy with having this state. But how much are you going to put into this state? Because the assumption is that the government, national unity, will bring all these resources to govern. And federalism is about self-rule, governing yourself. And that debate is supposed to come the whole lot of physical sustainability of these 28 states. But the debate has started. And I'm really happy that the debate about this federalism and the level of government actually started. Let me stop here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Luka. Now, we've got other hands up here. We've got only 15 minutes left. So if I can ask everyone to be brief, and our respondents to be brief as well. Yeah. Now, this gentleman had his hand up.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you for offering me the opportunity to speak. First of all, I would like to thank all. My name is Alhaj Paul, and I'm from South Sudan originally. I would like to thank all the panel presenters for presenting a very informative papers. I think my question is going to go directly to Luka Biong after I've just clarified one or two things. One is that I think the world is being completely misled because the real problem in South Sudan was this peace or this war was initiated by internal divisions within SPLM. It's an SPLM war. It's not a war of the people of South Sudan. That's very, very important because everybody in South has this saying which says when the SPLA is united, they are looting the country, and when they are divided, they are killing the civilians. And this is what is being Even a child in South Sudan says this. Now, what happened is that after igniting this war, unfortunately, the international community empowered the SPLM again by giving them this agreement, making them to be the main parties in the agreement, excluding the entire people of South Sudan. These people of South Sudan are not part of this agreement, but they do accept this agreement as a way of solving the problem. Now, this peace in itself raises a very serious problem right now. There's been people, we're being misled here. For example, the demilitarization of Juba has not been done. All right, this is a sticking issue. The government has brought more militia from Bahar Ghazal to Juba. And again, on the issue of 28 states, I'm sorry, Mr. Luka, I don't agree with you because Riek Machar says clearly the agreement is being violated because the agreement is based on the 10 states. He wants the 10 states to be the basis for implementing the agreement. He has not talked about implementing more.
Sorry to interrupt, but we need to...
I come to the question.
Good, thank you.
I think sometimes because even such gatherings, people end up getting misled and South Sudan constantly suffers because the real issues are not addressed. Now, there are signs right now that the SPLM is likely again to ignite another war among themselves. And what guarantee can you give to these people here that the SPLM is not going to go into war? Because I know that war is coming.
Thank you. Let me, yes, Jill, and I'm going to get some people from this side of the room.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Jill Lusk and I'm a journalist. I think both Martina and Marika raised challenges to the international community. You know, can we learn as well? I'd be interested to hear the comments of Luka and Lebanon on those. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's have the gentleman at the back, and then we'll have Margie.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give my point of view. It is unfortunate that the time is so limited that we are not going to give the background of our questions, because you need to give a background so that people understand what you are talking about. I expected Brother Luka to talk like a scholar. He is a scholar, but it is very unfortunate he spoke as a Dinka. Why I'm saying this, I'm not being insulting or something like that. He said 28 state is popular. It's popular among the Dinkas. Where did you collect the data? The lady here before talked that the whole data being collected in South Sudan is very narrow. So I did not expect a South Sudanese, although you are from Abyei, we accepted you. You are not a South Sudanese, technically. We accepted that as a brother. How do you put yourself to the point that you talk like a Dinka? As to speak, as I speak now, the Dinka has taken most of our lands, has taken the Shuluk lands, and taken from other people as well.
Okay, do you have a question that you want to
yes.
pose? Yeah,
So,
because
sorry,
we only have 10
I'm coming
minutes.
to the question quickly.
Yes, thank you.
The Dinka has taken most of the land of other people. That is why you talk of elections before. They are doing it so that they are seen as majority. They use the word majority misleadingly, because they are 18% of population, and they talk of majority these days. And this is what we are doing. Don't mislead the people, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Margie.
Thanks very much. Margie Buchanan-Smith, Research Associate with ODI. My question is to Luka, but I'm sure some of the others may have something to say as well. And you made the comment that development and humanitarian aid need to be done differently. And I was wondering if you could expand what you mean, particularly for the development side, because we know that South Sudan is struggling to get the humanitarian aid it needs for the intensifying food crisis. And we can be sure that the development side is going to be very small. And I'd be really interested in what you think the priorities should be for that probably shrinking development aid.
I realize there are lots of other questions and comments, but we do have time after the event, plenty of time, that we're going to discuss. You have a burning question. A very brief one? Okay, I'll take you at your word. Very brief.
My question is to Dr. Luka. Yeah, thanks you, for come and enlighten people about what has happened in Southern Sudan. My question is, don't you think that international community, especially Troika, United States and Britain and Norway, those who supported the South Sudan to become independent, I thank for them. Because they turned a blind eye to what happened on 13th in 2014. Ethnic Nuer was being killed for good 3 days, was hand down like just dogs. And then people were waiting for a report of African Union. And it was very clear that was not a coup. It was a policy of government. And yet, international community, especially those three countries, United States, turned a blind eye, especially President Obama. He turned a blind eye. President K shouldn't be, yeah, that's the question. He shouldn't be indicted.
Okay.
Like what happened, in Ivory Coast. Laurent Gbagbo, despite the fact those who have been killed during, when he refused to step down, was less than those people killed in Southern Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we can't take any more questions now because we've only got 7 minutes. So I'm counting on Luka and others to be as brief as possible in their answers. Thank you.
I think let me say for Al-Haj, maybe if there's somebody who came out upfront about the 28th state, it is we in the Center for Peace and Development Studies. It was issued on the 2nd, on the 8th of October. We conducted a very big meeting in Juba. Maybe creating that space when becoming a victim. So it is interesting that I now being labeled as Dinka. But that's the fact of the matter, because we're very clear on some of these issues. So, but I don't want to talk about that one. Now, it is true, Riek did not talk about the 10 state. He agreed. This is what I'm talking about the genesis itself. The very fact that you say that you wanted 28 states during the discussion, during the negotiations, 21 states, this is what 21 states during the negotiation, that is exactly, that's what the point I'm, because you have to engage with the people of South Sudan in discussing those things. And that is the thing we have been saying, and put it into a rigorous study so that we'll be able to know, should we have 21 states? Should we have less than 20 states? What is the viability of this one? What is the consultation of the people? This is the premise with which we approach these things. So that's why I'm talking about the issue of Riek. Now, I think, Gil, can we learn? We conducted, I think through SLRC, reviewing the Operation Lifeline Sudan. And somebody called Dan Maxwell did a very good job in trying to assess what happened and what are the lessons we can learn. I think this one seemed to be available here. One of the things that always people say, whenever you have humanitarian assistance, and exactly, I just want to build on what you said also, always let us remember that you're coming there and there are people. And these people, they have their own norms, they have own institutions. It's not always assumption that nothing is existing there. And that's why I link to what she said. It has been proven that the national governments, they tend not to be performing well. We know that one in delivering the services. And that's why we need to reshape our engagement and intervention in such a way, let us see that new reality. And I think Lebanon said it, and then Marek said it also. That's why we need to shift our thinking. You know what happened when the conflict erupted? It was necessary for the international community now to focus on the local institutions. And for me, this is an area that we may need to look at, the issue of local institutions. I know it has been done, but I think we can do it differently for the long term, and how can we be able to sustain it? For Carlo, we don't want to get in this debate of who is who, because that is not a very fruitful argument. But it is very important, the point you raised, the issue of ABA, because it is very important for people also to know here, because this is a very, are they South Sudanese? Are they Sudanese? So there's this issue of identity crisis here, and it's being used extensively in order to deprive. And I think that's a very interesting, because it is exactly when we talk about the people of Nuba Mountain, people of Blue Nile, who contributed enormously in bringing this state that we talk about today about South Sudan. So South Sudan is a product of a collective contribution of many people who managed actually to have this country called South Sudan. Even some of the South Sudanese, they did not even contribute. I could say even Nuba Mountains and Blue Nile contribute more than the people of South Sudan in bringing what we call today South Sudan. And South Sudanese now are very proud of being South Sudanese. It's a paradox. In actual fact, if a citizenship it was supposed to be given on the basis of contribution, some of us could not be a member of this. It's just because of territory. It's because you are born. It is not about your contribution. So saying that one, but the fact of the matter, Carlo, Article 97, sub-article 2A, because the citizenship is not you to give it. It is a legal provision. So it should be devoid from an individual. Even the president or whoever should not say, you, Carlo, because you have not participated in the war, you are not a citizen of South Sudan. That's why it's a constitutional issue. So Article 97, leave alone the contribution of people of RBA. He's saying the Ngok Dink of RBA, they are citizens. They enjoy the same right like the people of, people of South Sudan. They are citizens of South Sudan. They enjoy the same rights. It is not you to make a judgment whether they are part of South Sudan or not, okay? So it's not an issue that whether I am a Dinka, I don't want to get into myself, because on the issue of 28 state, if there's somebody on a higher moral ground, it is me. Because I said it very loud and clear. That's why I'm not in South Sudan today. I mean, you label me today that I am a Dinka. I hope they will listen. They will know that I am a Dinka. In actual fact, I'm not sure whether they can label me that I'm a Dinka. Okay? Yeah. I think let me stop here. Okay? I think I can leave it for the rest for the international community. Lebanon especially.
Lebanon.
Yes. I think I want to call it regarding, I think the name SPLM is a big issue in Khartoum. But it seems like increasingly it's not a very important issue in South Sudan. The second largest party, I think they shared the SPLM name, isn't it? So Lama Call's party is no longer SPLM DC. They just threw it away. So it's something else now. On the issue of what can we learn, well, I think, as Luka already said, some studies have already been done to make these comparisons. But like coming from the university, I can point out one thing, that when the violence started in December 2030, then there was this sharp shift from whatever engagement was there to humanitarian. Some countries were, like the Norwegians, were very good. But the Americans, then they started also having problems, for example, like issues of education. Where do you put education? Then I think they started saying, I think education can also become humanitarian. So I think there's a bit of problem with this, that I think it comes to the issue of dichotomies, that we have pure development here, pure humanitarian here. But the reality is really not like that. So I think really when there's a crisis like this sudden shift to something, abandoning everything that you are doing, even when there's a school which ended halfway because it's already humanitarian, it's not, I think it should be reconsidered, I think, in my opinion.
Thank you, Lebanon. Unfortunately, we're out of time now, but that doesn't mean that the discussion has to stop, because we'd like to invite all of you to join us for drinks and snacks in the next room and to continue the discussion with our panelists. I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight, and our participants online for watching. And please do stay and continue the debate, because I think there's a lot more to be said. So thank you to all our panelists. Thank you to Dr. Luka and Lebanon, Marika and Martina.